Hey guys, we're gonna talk about this video being about, and we're gonna make it a part one because I'm still trying to look into this, but hopefully others can look into it before me, because I really want to find this out. But white slavery in Brazil. So we all that view this channel, Fabrice channel, Lex Will's channel, any other channel that promotes, we already know that there is white slavery in America. And there was white slavery in America. Right? The Barbary pirates didn't just send white African slaves to the United States. This happened everywhere in the world. Everywhere. Specifically Brazil, I think. But yeah, Brazil. So we are discovering white slavery in Brazil. This is part one because we're just doing the beginning of it. But let's just read some stuff. It's not really gonna be a long video, hopefully, but let's do it. Uh, I typed in white slavery Brazil PDF. Research on white slavery in Brazil often explores the intersection of race, gender, and servitude. Pretty much, it could be any. They're saying it could be any race. Uh, you know, or different types of races through servitude or slavery, which is all the same thing, slavery and servitude. Specifically highlighted the existence of white domestic servants, slaves, not domestic servant. Not, well, servant is technically a slave, sort of. Not indentured servitude. Slave. In pre abolition Rio de Janeiro, black Portuguese nation, and the at times blurred lines of servitude for poor Europeans. Bullshit. Let's go to this right quick. Benjamin Franklin. Swarthy. We've already made videos on this on this stuff, okay? Right? Swarthy all of Europe. So there's no such thing as no poor European white person. Okay? They are African. They are African. White African. Okay? And we already did discover that there's more black people in the entire world today, mathematically, who speak more Portuguese than whites. And remember, all these so-called whites that speak Portuguese that we calculated today, during that day of today, the modern day, they are not even really 100% so-called white. A lot of them have black ancestors too. So, or Negro ancestors. These studies also examine how narratives of white slaves were utilized in literary portrayals and bystander inventions, sometimes serving to highlight or contrast with the dominant, overwhelming system of African slavery. Key findings on servitude in Brazil. Slavery, not servitude, slavery. White slaves, domestic servants, pre-abolition Rio de Janeiro included a mix of enslaved, rented, and free labor, with instances of white, often poor, women working as Greta servants, white sex slaves, within culture of servitude. Literary portrayals, documents discuss how bystanders and writers used the concept of white slaves to shape discussions on race and gender. Context of slavery. While focusing on these specific instances, literature emphasizes that the overwhelming majority of enslaved people in Brazil were of African descent, with over 5 million brought to the country. You see how they say African descent? They didn't say black African descent, and they also didn't say white African descent. But we already read from this book, right? Uh-oh. Not pants. Why are they showing me pants? Okay. From what is it called? This is Matt Walsh's cousin, Michael Walsh, and Don Jordan, right? Matt Walsh's cousin, right? White cargo. In Americas, not just the United States, but right. So this is all I could find right now. Read some other stuff. Before we get to this one, white slavery in Brazil. From the European University Institute, Swiss migration between free and forced labor in coffee plants. Forced labor. That means they weren't workers, they were slaves. 1840, 1860. This research project examines the class, race, and gender intersections in Swiss colonial settlements in Brazil during the mid-19th century. It aims to reconsider the history of European migration and global capitalism in the transition from forced to free labor in coffee plantation slaves. The analysis will be based on 1,000 letters, diplomatic documents, and press sources stored in the Swiss, German, and Brazilian archives. See this photo? The project has received funding via the EUI ESR Call 2022 dedicated to early stage researchers. Between 1840 and 1860, thousands of Swiss and German immigrants okay. If they're not actually Swiss and German. They're saying they're Swiss and German because they're white. I just want you to understand that they're saying they're Swiss and German because they're white, but they're not. The Swiss and German are not white, they're swarthy. Migrants settled in the agricultural regions of Brazil. Supported by local capitalists, families arrived to work in coffee plantations given the relatively scarce population for free labor. And I'm going to say this again. Swiss and German were already told swarthy. So it don't matter if they were white people coming from Swiss and Germany. They're still slaves. Until the 1850s, Brazil largely profited from slavery, which made up the workforce needed for large-scale export agriculture. As slavery came under increasing attack by the mid-19th century, some Sao Paulo coffee planters began introducing Europeans to replace enslaved labor. We already learned that most of the Portuguese speak black. Oh, my bad. Most of the Portuguese are black and speak Portuguese, right? How are they going to replace enslaved labor? You mean bring more white slaves in? This just doesn't make sense to me. This situation also benefited from increasing impoverishment among peasants, slaves, in the German states and Switzerland. However, after a short period, colonial settlers started to complain about the unfair labor conditions, which the European press called white slavery. The Swiss state, in particular, decided to resolve the situation by diplomatic means, sending the scientist Johann Jacob von Tischutti the introduction of free labor in Sao Paulo. Agriculture by means of European migration under conditions of potentially scarce labor supply is paradigmatic case to explore old and new forms of division of labor in a changing capitalist world economy. That's all I can read for right now. Alright, so yeah. Let's get to the next one. Okay, we're not gonna read this one, but I'm just wanna tell you what this one is. Black and white workers, Sao Brazil. So we're gonna have to make a little video for this one. We might not find anything, but I just want to let y'all know. Black and white workers in 1880. They're talking about slaves. So another evidence of white slavery by Duke University Press. Now let's go to the last one. And we're going to have to try to find this article a different time. Maybe I could find it. But bystander interventions and literary portrayals, white slaves in Brazil, 1850s to the 1880s. Abstract. The article analyzes the press coverage of 58 cases of bystander interventions to free what were described as white or almost white slaves. They were white. In Brazil from the 1850s to the 1880s. It juxtaposes the press reports on these large, spontaneous, crowded-funded manumissions with the portrayal of 17 white slave characters in Brazilian literature. And I'm just to prove you that there is literature and arts and crafts and music productions of white slaves in Brazil. Here's a example. I just had it. Okay, I might not be able to. Let me do IIS. I thought I had it. Okay, I don't. Yeah, there you go. Fine. Let me see. Wiki. I thought I had it. Okay, we don't. We'll do it next time. But yeah. The bystanders who raised funds to free these incongruous slaves. I have never seen that word. Let's go ahead and look. Go ahead and see what that word means. Incongruous describes something that is out of place, inappropriate, or inconsistent with its surroundings or character. It refers to elements that do not fit together, are clashing, or harmonious, creating a sense of bizarre, absurd, or unsuitable. Something that looks or feels wrong. Okay. And the journalists who wrote about them shared understandings of slavery, race, and gender with the writers who created white slave characters in novels. So now they're trying to say these are just characters instead of real life. Yeah, right. Acknowledgements. Earlier versions of this article were presented to the students in my 2018 undergraduate seminar on slavery and to the Congress of the Canadian Association for Latin American and Caribbean Studies, Montreal, May 2018. I thank Gillian McGillivray for her comments on the latter version and an anonymous peer review for his or her thoughtful suggestions. Research for this project was funded by the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council and supported by the Naomi Lacey Resident Fellowship at the Calgary Institute for the Humanities in 2018-19. I thank the late Bert J. Barackman for calling my attention to some of the cases analyzed in this article and for encouraging me to look for others, and Renata Romero Gardes for sharing her copy of Julio Cesar Leo's A Escriva Blanca. Research assistance was provided by Renato Torres de Lira, Nina Egolagonova, I cannot say those names, Pedro Falk. There we go. This was it. So this is the only these are the only things we have for white slavery in Brazil. Now I want to try to look this up right before we end the video. White slave. We might have to make a part 2. Maybe somebody get it for me. But white slavery, Brazil. Right? White slavery, Brazil literature. I want to look that up. So what does this mean? Literature regarding white slavery in 19th century Brazil often highlights the abolitionist strategy of focusing on the enslavement of light-skinned or white individuals to garner empathy. I'm trying to understand what that means. White slaves in Brazilian literature. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Yeah, there it is. Characters like Isura Bernardo, Guramares, and Ascara Asirova are depicted as white, educated, and refined, making their enslavement appear more unnatural or shocking than the black slaves. And I think I found this right here. This is what I found. No, I didn't find that. Let me go back. Okay. Where is it? Dang, what? What the? What the freak? There you go. Bingo. A Escrava Isura is an influential 1875 Brazilian novel by Bernardo Guimarães, a key work of Brazilian Romanticism that tells the story of a beautiful light-skinned enslaved woman, Isura, who pursued by her cruel master Leonocio and seeks freedom and love with a wealthy abolitionist named Alvaro. The novel uses Isura unique status as a white-skinned, let's read this again, a white-skinned slave, to critique the injustices of Brazilian slavery system, becoming a major literary and cultural phenomenon, especially after its popular telenovela adaptations. And maybe we could go right here. I might have to read this book. Yeah, this is actually kind of weird. So we're gonna read this right quick. Might make a video reading this, but yeah, let's just go at it. I'm just trying to make the video not too long. But yeah, that's it, guys.